Yo, what is up, guys? Welcome to a new interview series. The series where I interview indie game developers. Now, to start off with this series, I'm going to interview someone named KrayFish Entertainment. Now, let's get started. Why did you get into video game development?
Video game development has been something I've always wanted to do since I was a kid. I've always been fascinated by 2D and 3D platformers, as those were the games that I grew up with. In particular, Super Mario World and Super Mario 64 were among the first games I ever played. In 2005, I finally made a game of my own during a summer camp where I learned how to use what is known today as ClickTeam Fusion. It's a program that allows you to make 2D Flash-style games. Eventually, I started to enter my games into competitions. The Technology Student Association would host various engineering and programming related challenges. One of them was called Electronic Game Design, where you had to make a short educational game with at least 5 levels. From this competition, I had won 4 state championships and 1 national championship. This experience made me realize that I could potentially use game design for more than just a hobby. I wanted to kindle it into a passion. It became my new goal to try to create a full-length game that could be published and released through a public vendor. I thought it would be appropriate to make the leap to 3D, so I began to learn the Unreal Engine. My first attempt at a 3D game was an RPG, but I eventually reworked it into a platformer which came to be known as Droplet States of Matter. Currently, I create games entirely in my spare time, while my day job as a software engineer pays the bills. While this does mean I'm a hobbyist, I would say the advantage is that I'm not necessarily bound by deadlines, and it's far less risky to experiment with new ideas.
What game are you currently working on, and what games do you plan on making in the future?
Currently, I am working on Droplet States of Matter, a 3D platformer where you play as Droplet and Molecule, 2 siblings who can change between the 4 states of matter to solve puzzles and other platforming challenges. Each state of matter grants the player unique abilities. For example, cloud form can jump much higher than the others, and ice form can freeze the surface of liquids to create new pathways. The game is currently available in early access on Steam with a free demo containing the first hub world. The game has been in development for just over 4.5 years, though a large part of that was me learning how to use the Unreal Engine. Up until the game's final release, I'll be providing regular updates approximately once per month. I have yet to announce my next game publicly, as I have multiple ideas still in the pipeline. I will say that after the final release of Droplet States of Matter, I will be focusing on creating a series of smaller games. That's not to say I don't have bigger projects planned. Many of the levels in Droplet States of Matter were cut during development, and I've been looking to refit those ideas for the future. Most likely, these removed levels will take the form as either DLC or a fully fledged sequel.
What has been the easiest and also the hardest part of developing a video game?
Everything about developing a video game is challenging, but I would say the least difficult part for me is level creation. Not necessarily finalizing the look, but throwing together the initial blockout and design. It's a point in development where it feels the most experimental and most creative. For example, in Droplet States of Matter, I was able to create dozens of prototype levels in a short span of time after I had finished creating the initial player movement and mechanics. The hardest part is a tie between starting and finishing the game. It's very difficult to get a game idea off the ground and past the prototype stage, something I believe is the most common barrier of entry for newer game developers. And finishing the game takes a thorough amount of commitment, willing to see everything to the end. Going back and checking every nook and cranny for bugs can be tedious, but it's all the more rewarding when everything comes together.
How do you handle negative reviews and thoughts about your game?
The main thing about negative reviews is that you have to keep in mind that they are inevitable. No game is going to be perfect, and you especially can't make a game that will be in absolutely everyone's tastes. One review might say your game is too hard, but another will say that it is too easy, so you'll have to go and re-examine why they might have said these things. Like any form of criticism, it's best to approach it rationally. Obviously, some reviews are going to be little more than frustrated rants that have nothing to do with your game's quality, but the honest reviews that bring up valid design flaws are the ones to pay attention to the most. Do the best you can to give the impression that you are listening to your player base. Sometimes it's impractical to address all the complaints, but I would strongly recommend going with the ones that would improve quality of life. Regardless, the biggest takeaway is that once your game is out, you can say that it's finished, which is already a huge accomplishment in and of itself. At this point, the critiques you receive are an opportunity to make your next game better.
What is your biggest goal in video game development?
My biggest goal has always been to make a 3D platformer. just like the ones from the late 90s and early 2000s. Now that I'm quite close to actually achieving that, I suppose my new goal is just to continue making games. I want to eventually revisit all the creations in the world-building appendix of my website, and make video game adaptations out of the stories that I've been working on there. Droplet is only one universe out of many, and there's much more to come in the future.
Alright, that is the interview, everybody. And thank you so very much, KrayFish, for being the first one to be a part of my new interview series. You know, I definitely see a lot of amazing potential with your game. Your game, for me personally, has been very fun, but my god, challenging. It's been very hard for me personally, but it's still a great game, and also I see a lot of speedrunning potential with it as well. You keep working hard on it, my friend. I'm sure it'll become an amazing work of art. If you guys like to check out the game yourselves, then I'll leave a link to Droplet States of Matter in the description down below. Alright everybody, that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe. Now see you guys in the next video. Goodbye everybody.